So I'm going to be house hacking this one, kind of living for free here. And then once we refied the sixplex in PNF, we refied, bought another plex in Longueuil where we did a full optimization. We're actually at the process of finalizing that optimization. We just finished the renovations after a year and 3 months. And now we're in the process of renting. We're tripling the rent value there. And we're going to go do a cash out refi. Even with the high interest rates, we should still get 90% worth of our equity out. If we get the high rents that we're aiming for, we might even get a cash payout at the end of it. So, and it's going to cash flow very well after that. It's going to be maybe cash flowing 15, 20K a year after management fees and everything.
Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. And today I'm very, very proud to have a guest from Montreal. It's Mr. Sebastiano Cantali. How are you today?
Good. Yourself, Axel?
I'm super good. I'm very pumped to share your story. Before we dive into it and we get to listen more about you, your experience, and your amazing track record as a real estate investor, I just want to remind everyone who's listening, thank you for your continued support. Thank you for sharing this episode with a friend who's interested in starting in real estate. Send us a review, subscribe to the show. It's really important. It really helps us reach more people like yourself, and you contribute to spreading the good word that if Sebastiano and I can be successful in real estate, you can too. You just have to learn how to do it and get the confidence that you are able, you can. So share this episode, leave us a review, send us some comments, send us some questions, and we will reach more people. Thank you very much. And also, I have started the Inner Circle community. If you want to become a patron and support the show and be invited to exclusive events and have more access and ask questions and do some deal reviews, let me know. Look in the show notes. We have the patron link. So, Sebastiano, before we get into your real estate experience, like how in the world did you start in real estate?
So first, I'd like to thank you for having me on. It's a great pleasure. So it kind of started once I graduated university. I've always wanted to get into it as of 18. I knew I wanted to get a bit more information about real estate and had a tutoring business at the time. And I had tutored a few agents' kids, always talking about the markets, understanding what's going on, how to become an investor and get more familiar with the market. And then when I graduated university, it was 24, 25, and I was working at the bank. I was doing some mortgages. There was a gentleman, which I will not say his name, but he would come in on the first of the month and come and drop off $420,000 worth of checks.
420,000?
So
Woo!
I remember doing the calculation. It was a span of 3 days. Every first of the month, so he would come the day before the first and the second for like checks, e-transfers, and cash. And the gentleman was a very down-to-earth gentleman. Used to love talking to him, and I would ask him like what he was going to do the rest of the week and everything. He's like, "Oh, I'm flying back to Florida. I'm going to play golf." But he would always be there to come and drop off the checks. So he was a great inspiration. And from there, my partner Joe, who's a good friend of mine here in Montreal, we both worked in the banking industry. Both had finance degrees from John Molson, and we knew numbers inside out. And we said, you know what? Let's pull the trigger. All my friends are buying houses, and we ended up buying a sixplex in Montreal. So it was one of those things that, like, we've taken some classes, but till you actually pull the trigger and do your own analysis and your own YouTube academy, you don't know what you're getting into until you do it.
Yeah. And it's always easy to read about it and hear other people when you're starting to crunch. And then the agent is like, well, how much should I make your offer to? Then you're like, yeah, it's intimidating. So,
Yeah.
hey, can you tell us more about this first deal that you made? So it was a sixplex. Where was it in town? And if you're comfortable sharing some of the numbers, like let's go through the transaction.
Yeah, so the transaction was a 6 unit, all 3.5 apartments. It was bought 5 and 6 years ago, about at this point. We bought it in Saint Michel Villeray region, so it's on
Okay.
Pinot and Villeray, basically south of the 40.
Mhm.
If for those who know Montreal. So it's a very desirable neighborhood now, but at the time it wasn't. I only knew about this neighborhood because I went to high school on Vincent Massey Collegiate, which is on Rosemont near Pinef.
Yeah.
So I knew of the area and I knew of the region, a very desirable region, and we got it for 515,000 at the time for a 6 unit, which was amazing in Montreal nowadays. But at the time, there was a bit concerns because that's what the market was hovering around. We made an
Wait,
offer
500 and how much you said?
15,000. Yeah,
515. That's really good.
that was 5 6 years ago. That was when the market
Yeah.
was definitely a bit more doable, and maybe you would have seen the same thing in maybe Verdun and some of those other places. But now the building is definitely worth a different amount.
Oh
So
yeah.
just simple numbers. So we bought the building. We were looking on a 25-year amort for myself and my partner. We were looking only for cash flow. The deal made sense. It was cash flowing. We were making about I think it was a 10% return on investment just on simple cash flow without having the appreciation and without loan capitalization involved. So we were looking at simple cash flow model. That's all we knew at the time. We didn't educate ourselves past the BRRRR models and all those other things. So it was just simple cash flow. And then within 3 years, our perspective started to change because a year after we bought a 5 unit in Mirabel with another partner because we saw the same cash flow model that we were looking for. I got a small loan from my parents to buy that first one. Sold my tutoring company for the second one a year later. And it was like my parents started to freak out, like, how you starting to buy some of these things? But yeah, we were just getting creative on how to raise funds through inner family and friends. Our friends saw that we were doing extremely well, and we bought a second one at the time. And then we slowly had to change our business model because we realized, like yourself and any other investor, once you buy the first one and you put all that down payment, and you're like, wow, I worked so hard to get this
Yeah.
down payment, and now I invested all this money. It's like, how do I get the next deal instead of waiting 5 years for the refi or whatever it is? How do I get to the next deal if I want to inject my money? How are these people getting into hundreds of doors? Um,
Exactly.
and that's when we slowly changed our approach. When we found out 3 years later, we got contacted from, we always get these off market letters saying, like, are you interested in selling your property? And someone called me and I'm like, look, I said, I'm not interested in selling. It's a great asset. I'm like, but there's always a price. So if you're interested in offering me a great price, I'm open ears. Just says I'll get back to you in the Senate. And I never heard back to him. So I just called one of my broker friends and I'm like, hey, what's everything selling for in the area? It's like
Yeah.
3 years after we purchased. And we I was expecting like 650,000, 700,000 at most. And I get some comparables and it's like 950, a million,
A
a million
million. Yeah.
one. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? So I called my friend Joe. I'm like, Joe, what would you value the building at? He's like 700 max. I'm like, here's the comps, take a look. And he's like, no way. He's like, there's no way this building's worth a million. I'm like, yeah, this building is a gold mine right now, you know?
Yeah.
So that one deal last year, we did the refi and we pulled out about 300,000 of another loan. So we basically got our full money out. We did some renovations to increase rents and everything. And we're still not fully optimized, so there's still money to be made as well. But
Mhm.
we pulled out 300,000 on the residential side to do the refi, and we sunk it into our next deal, and that's how we've been snowballing our deals ever since.
Beautiful. I mean, that's the story and the testament that it is possible. It's just you were patient and you put in some hard work.
Yeah, yeah. It was an eye opener once we started understanding some of these different models that we could approach and how we could add value in different ways to, let's say, increase the side of multifamily that most people don't necessarily understand, which is increasing your NOI, which is either reducing your expenses or increasing your revenues.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this one you said you're just about to refinance it now, or you
No,
just did? Sorry.
we just refined it about a year ago. That's it.
Okay, okay. So yeah, early 2022. Okay.
Yeah.
So then what happened since then? Because you've been very active and you and I have even we haven't yeah, we visited some deals together. I'm thinking
Yeah.
of yeah. So what next? What happened after that sixplex?
So after that sixplex, like I said, a year later we bought a five. Couple of years after that, I bought my triplex. Well, sorry, my duplex that I'm doing a conversion. I'm putting a bachelor apartment. So I'm gonna be house hacking this one, kind of living for free here.
Mhm.
And then once we refied the sixplex in PNF, we refied bought another plex in Longueuil where we did a full optimization. We're actually at the process of finalizing that optimization. We just finished the renovations after a year and 3 months. And now we're in the process of renting. We're tripling the rent value there. And we're going to go do a cash out refi. Even with the high interest rates, we should still get 90% worth of our equity out. Um,
Nice.
if we get the high rents that we're aiming for, we might even get a cash payout at the end of it. So, and it's going to cash flow very well after that. It's going to be maybe cash flowing 15, 20K a year after management fees and everything.
Nice. Okay. So recently we spent a little bit of time together, and you told me that now you're also looking at the Maritimes.
Yeah.
What's happening over there?
Yeah, so recently, after networking with people at great events like your event, Axel, like so grateful that you do this in the Montreal community. We get to meet great individuals that are doing so many different avenues of real estate, whether short-term rental, multifamily, optimizations, new development. You get to meet all kinds of people. And I started talking to some people. So one of these great gentlemen is Rodrigo, which you know so well.
Yeah.
Uh, Explaining about the market and explaining that what Quebec is a great market, but it's such a small market compared to what you can also be doing outside of this province. And I said, you know what, the main goal for myself and my partner at the time was we want to get to the American investing side, which is in hopefully within a year we'll be purchasing our first plex over there. But I said the best way to try this out is to do cross province investing in our backyard, that we're comfortable with the rules, the regulations for citizens. There's no other hurdles we got to jump through,
Yeah.
and just developing the team, because the best way to scale is not taking care of everything yourself. It's learning how to work with people to get to those points that you want to. So what we focused on was building the right teams, and every deal has a different team behind it. It's not necessarily always the same group of people that are always working on everything, as you might well know so well. And we are currently working on a Alberta deal right now with 19 unit, which was presented through a friend of through networking. He's boots on the ground over there. He's helping us with the connections over there, but we're more of the numbers and strategists behind how to enter and exit the deal.
Okay.
So we're basically offer. He came to talk to us. We saw similar goals and future goals together, and we said, you know what, this would be a great partnership. And he wanted to get into multifamily. He's been doing duplex, triplexes, and everything, but he didn't understand the commercial lending as well. And this is where we're helping him, and he's going to help us understand that market and help us out with whatever we need. God forbid there is a reason that he has to be on site without the property manager having to take care of everything, that
Yeah.
he can be there without us having to take a flight. And the other deals that we're working on are in New Brunswick, like you know so well. We're working on 56 unit portfolio there in New Brunswick, which is two same portfolio bought from one seller. But that deal is actually a pretty funny deal. It's an 18 unit and a 38 unit motel conversion that they're already currently running.
Whoa, 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 whoa. There's a lot to unpack in there. Okay. Okay. You said 56 units, it's a 19 and then a motel.
Sorry, an 18 and a 38 unit motel. Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay. So how do you find this portfolio?
So that 18 unit was presented to me through a friend. He's like, look, I have something interesting. If you want to partner up and everything, we said, yeah, let's take a look. And it was an 18 unit, random numbers. The numbers seemed to make sense, and I'm like, yeah, let's make an offer on it. And he said, I'll call the broker, and he went to call the broker, and he was on speakerphone while we were on a Zoom call, so just understanding hearing the chat. And I remember hearing 19, 19, 19, and I thought it was 19 units. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's a house beside the building that we'll acquire with it. And the guy's like, no, there's no house. I don't know what house you're talking about. I'm like, well, do they own anything else? He's like, yeah, they own a motel right beside it, not far. And I'm like, well, is that for sale? And they're like, yeah, that's for sale. So we made an offer on both at the same time. So
Nice.
a miscommunication ended up to another opportunity, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
So the motel conversion was even a great example of another avenue in real estate that most people overlook sometimes. It was a motel that can be zoned as long-term apartment complex.
Okay.
And they're currently running it as a long-term rental. So they kind of abolished the motel version of business. And now they've just been long-term renting to most of their tenants there. They're all studio size apartments and they were including already kitchenettes already. So we basically are going to come in, just clean them up a bit, put about $10,000 worth of renovations, like put up a nice floating floor, clean up the kitchenette, maybe some new tiles in the washroom, and then basically rent them at market rents with some like Wi-Fi add-ons and everything that could help people. Moncton is the city we're in, so there's a big university town, a lot of students, a lot of people moving there actually because of remote work. So the demand is very, very high, and we already saw a great opportunity to do MLI Select on that specific deal. And the 18 unit, we're actually looking to do a CMHC refi on that one.
Okay, and the 18 unit is a more traditional multifamily.
Yeah. So the company, sorry, the owners of both properties are a restoration company.
Mhm.
They already did most of the renovations. Most of the capex is already done. The windows are done. Um, I think the boiler was changed recently. They also have done some of the cleaning up of the apartments. So most of them have been renovated in the last 5 to 10 years. So they're not modern, but they're clean and I would say freshly renovated compared to, let's say, a 30-year-old renovation. They're extremely in great condition. We did the walkthrough with the property manager and the broker.
Okay.
The broker owns about 150 units in that area, and even they were surprised to say how clean the building was and how well kept and maintained it is. And they said that the apartments are massive compared to what they're usually used to seeing, and they're definitely way under market rent. So we're going to be coming in, doing a proper management and bringing up that property rent to what it should be because it's currently being self-managed. And that sometimes can be some of the issues that people don't want headaches. They don't want to have to deal with the turning of the tenants. So that's why sometimes there's a big discrepancy in what the market can be from what they are right now. So that's going to be both projects there are going to be about a 1 to 2 year turnaround for full capital payback on that sense.
Okay, and then for I understand the motel conversion is actually going to be a little bit more labor intensive if you're putting
Yep.
10K per unit and all that. You're going to have a team in place to be able to handle all this.
Yeah, so that's what we leverage. So the main group is my partner Joe and Jediah, who's a great individual. If you guys want to speak to them, they're amazing people. Both young colleagues of mine, we work well together. That's the main unit. And
Yeah.
then what we do after that is we try and partner up with people who are currently working in these different regions. So the other two partners that we partner up in New Brunswick is Bava and Rajan.
Mhm.
Um, they already have property in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. They're doing some big deals there. They already have the property manager in place that they've been through two or three to get to the good property manager. They have their contractors already set up because they have property already there. So we saw value in bringing them in as capital partners, sorry, equity partners with us on the active side because we want to learn from them and get their resources. But I don't want to just say, hey, what are your resources over there? I want to be able
Yeah.
to contribute and grow together and that's our model as three Jedi and Joe. We leverage to grow. So I'm willing to take less on the deal to make sure that the deal goes through, and we have proper consultants that can always work with us, and we can improve together.
Mhm.
So that's the way we look at every deal. We're always open to working with people if we can all pull together to make the deal work.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more because within just a couple of years, you've been able to really branch out to Quebec, and then so look at Alberta, look in the Maritimes, and so like how do you do it? Like so many people just want to stick and invest in their backyard, and that's still been my case. Like all of my properties are still within a 50-kilometer radius, and I'm at the point now where I'd be ready to go outside in Canada, even go in the US and stuff. Like what gave you the confidence to do this?
Um, I'll gladly say sometimes it's a bit of being naive, right? It's what you don't know,
Yeah,
just jumping in and say, look, we'll figure it out on the go, right? Which is
yeah.
most people will learn the hard way, but it's also a lot of mingling and networking, which I didn't do enough at the beginning, and now I'm doing a lot more of.
Hmm.
Um, Networking with the right individuals, like yourself, Rodrigo, and many other people, and also joining some of these communities and these courses that are helping us and educating us on different strategies in different markets and how to go about these things.
Yeah.
That's what I mostly focus on now is the networking and getting to know people because at the end of the day, real estate is a very small industry to be in, and most people in Canada know each other when you start to speak to a few of them. And most people, I'm not going to say all, but most people are willing to share their knowledge and their experiences, as long as you reciprocate respect and show interest in what they're currently doing. Like most people will just try and ask for things, but I don't like to do that. I like to try and give, and then
Give
stuff
first.
be given to me after.
Yeah.
And that's that's how I lived my life since I was very young. I've been in the tutoring business, always trying to help out people, and I just continue that perspective and every other sense of real estate and any other venture I'm currently working on.
Hmm. Well, it's a very good way to put it. Your tutoring business must have been very formative and a great training actually for the real estate, because tutoring is also a people business, and you're
Yes.
always catering and always managing expectations and so on. And you're right, and I like the approach of, give first and then you will get in return. Now, last time when we were having a conversation with Rodrigo, you guys kind of opened my eyes to something that I want to share with others, because I don't have the experience from the rest of the country like you guys do, but you
Mhm.
guys had mentioned, like in Quebec, it's so tough because of le tal, because of the laws, because of all that, that it actually pushes us to be a lot more creative, so that when you go in another province, you're actually a rock star, because we have, I don't want to say these tricks, we have all these techniques and strategies to add
Yeah.
more value or to negotiate differently.
Yeah.
Like, how has your experience in Quebec been an accelerator when you go to Alberta?
Yeah, so that's those conversations are great. It's one of those things that if you're coming from a BC market, Ontario market, a Quebec market where landlord-friendly laws are not really there, they're more in the favor of the tenants, which isn't necessarily bad, which we understand. But for us to create value in some of these opportunities and some of these deals, like you know so well, Axel, is we got to figure out how we can come to an agreement with our tenant to increase those rents, to increase those revenues, to gain that value that it's so much it deserves, right?
Yeah.
So when you start talking to these other people investing in these other regions, because they didn't have many of these hurdles, when you're talking about what's their approach to increase revenues or to get the highest market rents, you kind of see a straight blank look in their face in the sense of like, oh, it's just we're just going to increase rents. But it's one of those things like, yeah, I get it. You could increase rents, but what separates you apart from everyone else is just increasing rents, right?
Mhm.
So those are the things that we like to bring in, like adding Wi-Fi, adding AC units, including some of these value adds that a lot of tenants love because it's makes them more homey, makes them feel welcome, and it shows that the landlord is taking care of these buildings. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of places that like I've had conversations with people in Alberta, like, oh, we're going to include Wi-Fi. It's like, why would you include Wi-Fi? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it's another value add. If I get to get a rate of Wi-Fi for cheaper than what someone else would go and pay $80 for
Yeah.
privately, I get it for, let's say, $100, and I get to outsource it to everyone else for like $40, $50, gives everyone else savings, and it gets to
Yeah.
increase my revenue.
Mhm.
So a lot of people just look at it as like, no, it doesn't make sense. Just decrease your expenses and increase your revenue. But how are you going to go about increasing revenue? And
Yeah.
sometimes because they don't have those same restrictions that we do, where we have to jump through so many hurdles to try and
Yeah.
get there, when you start talking about these strategies, it opens up their eyes. They're like, oh my God, I never even thought of it in that perspective.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's definitely helped us out because they see how sophisticated we are here in Quebec and how creative we have to get on our entrances, our exits, and even sometimes it's just different the way they do agreements. Like something that they do out west is an agreement for sale, which is kind of like a balance of sale here, but it's kind of different because you transact on it within like a year or 2 years later.
Mhm.
But the owner still holds the mortgage and takes care of all those things. So it's kind of like a trust agreement that's done there, and stuff that most Quebec sellers will not even think
Yeah.
about or use. So
Mhm.
it's a pull on and given pull on both sides because we only know how to do certain deals here in Quebec a certain way. And we know how to add value a certain way. So they don't know how to add the value, but they know how to do deals in a different way. So it's a great way to learn from that aspect too.
Yeah, and then being exposed to all those, I was going to say those cultures in the other provinces, also helps you to add more tools to your tool belt. So then you know what tool to use given the situation. So that's definitely an add-on. Now, what can we where is Sebastiano going to be 3 years from now? Like if you close your eyes, the ideal, and let's be realistic here, okay? If you tell me that you're going to be sitting on top of the Empire State Building and have 5,000 units, like, okay, that's great, but that's a dream. Well, maybe you have a strategy to be there.
Maybe
I
you have
mean,
a strategy. Yeah,
maybe you have
exactly.
a strategy. I'm
Exactly.
not judging, and only wish you the best. But like
Yeah.
realistically, where do you want to take this?
So I kind of want to bring it to so I'm currently in the process of doing this full time.
Yeah.
I'd let everything go so I could focus on this full time. So this year's goal is kind of to acquire an additional 100 units, which we're close to on track right now. This is the first 4 months of the year, and we're in the process of trying to close 75 units. And just trying to grow as quick as possible. But ideally, so the 5-year vision is about 2,000 doors, so it is big. But we have it broken down into years, and it's just not necessarily doors. Now we're also changing the strategy. So in 1 to 3 years, I want to try and get into different aspects of real estate. Short-term rentals, I want to get into. I want to get into the big multifamilies, and big multifamilies, like in a sense of 100 plus units on a transaction.
Yeah.
I still want to get the low-hanging fruit because I do want to aim for those big projects, but some of these smaller deals, like 18 unit, are still very lucrative. So to let them go, because some of those bigger deals will take maybe a year to transact on. Some of these smaller deals are still in your wheelhouse. You're comfortable in doing so, and you could close them very well. But we want to kind of be like a big powerhouse in real estate in a sense of we want to start globalizing our portfolio. I have opportunities to potentially do some short-term rentals in Portugal now. I'm looking to do some activities in the States with my brother becoming an American citizen in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So we're really trying to move towards getting away from the small mindset of my backyard and growing exponentially and creating a proper business around it in that sense. So that's the main goal in very general terms. But you go through the details of, like in the States, there's something called the 1031 exchange, which is undeniable, amazing for any investor. So you can create a little business just around doing a 5-year turn and selling the project, right? Because you're going to keep those capital gains and everything and just reinject them to the next property. So that's what we're basically trying to focus on, become an in-house, bring up as much possible as like helping people raise capital, getting our capital invested for our deals, flipping some deals, doing some, basically every avenue of real estate we want to try and touch in.
Beautiful, man. This is amazing and a true example of inspiration. So I'm so happy that we got to talk today and to share your story. Now, if people want to find out more about you, what's the best way to reach out?
So best thing, look me up on Facebook. I wasn't active in the past, but I'm definitely more active now on Facebook. If you want to jump on some calls, we're always jumping on calls. We're also raising capital. So if it's something that interests you, let us know. But we're always open to sharing. So if you just want to have a quick chat, reach out to me on Facebook. It's my full name. You could also look at me on Instagram at Seb Cantali. And those are the 2 handles I'm the most active on right now. But hopefully in the near future, we're going to be working on some other things that we could be more active on other things. So keep us posted and try and reach out to us as much as possible.
Sounds good, man. And to everyone listening, did you hear how much Sebastiano is active? And he kind of keeps repeating it, like taking action, being active, trying, talking to people. And he said at the beginning, beginning of my journey, I didn't network that much, and now I put a lot more, and it's opened doors. He's met people throughout the country, and that's helped us to take it to the next level. So if that's your case and you're at home and never going out, never talking to anybody, and you want to invest in real estate, you're slowing yourself down. Get out there, okay? Go out there, go learn. And Sebastiano, any last word of wisdom?
Last word. So one little thing to add to what you were saying. One of the places that I met a lot of great people are some these networking events. Axel holds a great networking event, and it's not just to toot his own horn. He does a great job. He's amazing for the Montreal community. And if you're, let's say, visiting from Montreal and you want to come to one of these events, I strongly recommend. This is where you get to meet some of these like-minded individuals, and where we share many of our little secrets, so where our contacts and all that stuff. That's where I would say most of the value is given. So yeah, definitely coming to one of these events.
Absolutely. And you know what? You're absolutely right. The next one is April 20th. It's held at the Courtyard Marriott here in Montreal near Ville Saint Laurent. I'll put the information in the show notes, and we have a really good guest that we're in the process of booking. It'll be a fun evening and a good way to meet people and to be inspired. And so join us April 20th. Thank you, Sebastiano. I'm often too shy to remind everyone that we also not just do a podcast, but we hold live events, and it's actually nice to shake hands and have a beer together. So there you go. All right, Sebastiano, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. Keep being active, keep researching your market, and make some offers. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next week. Signing out.